remember the morning when my mother told me she was dying. Her health had always been fragile, but we never expected her to be struck with a terminal disease. In her latest checkup, the doctor was extremely blunt with us. She had about a year left to live, if she was lucky. The first months were a complete nightmare. Something like this would be harsh for anyone, but for someone as shy and without friends as me, it was even worse. I didn't even have my father's support. He abandoned us so long ago, I didn't even remember what he looked like anymore. And school was yet another torture, since everyone ostracized me there. There was someone in particular who absolutely loathed me, Connor. He would insult me, make fun of me, and would sometimes hit me. And that day wouldn't be the exception. After class, he felt like pushing me to the ground. I stayed on the floor with my knees aching, seeing how he walked away, laughing. Once I recovered, I stood up and headed back home. I knew that would never change unless I fought back. But I didn't have the strength nor the confidence, and at the end of the day, I was dealing with much worse. My mother, how would the last day I spent with her be like? Or most importantly, when? Maybe it would be better if I disappeared along with her. That day, I went for a walk in the forest since I needed some alone time. I had been walking for a while when I bumped into a huge tree, a sequoia. It was so big, I could hardly see its top. I took advantage of its shadow to sit for a while with my back resting on its trunk, and without realizing it, I fell asleep. I woke up dazed and knew it was pretty late because it was starting to get dark. A spider climbing on my arm caught my attention. My first urge was to squash it, but I decided to just knock her off me and let it be. I stood up and I soon felt a presence in front of me. It was a girl. She was tall, had very long chestnut hair, and what really stood out about her was a slightly cracked white mask she was using. I could see her eyes, one black as coal and the other red as blood. She was wearing a short shirt from which multiple wounds peeked out. On her hand, she had a small circular object. I don't know what it was. I did notice a symbol on it though, a pentagram surrounded by a circle. She caught me by surprise, but for some reason, she didn't scare me. There was something about her presence that inspired peace and security, at least to me. "My name is Nemesis," she said in a grave voice. And that's how our friendship started. Every day, we would meet in the forest and would talk for hours. I told her about my problems, my mom's situation, Connor's bullying. But now, I had a friend by my side, and that gave me the strength to keep going. However, one day, everything went wrong. After school, I went directly to the forest like I always do, but I felt different. It didn't take long for me to realize that someone was following me, and very scared, I ran to my safe place under the sequoia. But when I arrived, Nemesis wasn't there. I felt a knot in my throat, fearing that nobody would help me. When I turned around, I saw Connor. He had a small knife in his hand, and thus I knew he wasn't messing around. I stepped back, but felt completely paralyzed by fear, so I couldn't run away. Connor stepped closer to me and then plunged towards me. I was immobilized under his weight, and even though I tried to break free, I knew how that would end up. But suddenly, I started to hear a children's song in my ears. Connor was surprised. He was hearing it too. I then saw a spider with long legs walk by my side, and shortly after, Nemesis appeared. She exuded a dark and threatening aura, almost as if she was an evil spirit. Connor was too dumbfounded to realize how Nemesis threw some sort of metallic threads at him. With those, Nemesis cut Connor top to bottom, and he let out a grunt of pain at the same time his blood slipped down his body. Nemesis continued tearing out Connor's skin with her weapon, that small circular object where knives were peeking out. And soon enough, there was nothing else to tear out. Connor collapsed on top of me with his entire weight, drenching me in his blood. I saw Nemesis get closer, no longer exuding the dark aura from before. She pushed aside Connor's lifeless body and extended her hand to me. She then told me something I wouldn't understand until much later. "Come with me. I want to introduce you to the tall man. He will give you power and nobody will hurt you ever again. There is a fight coming and a slender man wants you by his side." I had no idea what she was talking about, but what other choice did I have? Soon, I would end up alone in the world and she was the only friend I had. I grabbed her hand and stood up. I saw how the spider went up Nemesis' chest and then rested on her shoulder. Without letting go of her hand, I accepted, and from that point on, I spent the rest of my life going through the path of darkness. However, that is a story I'll share with you some other time, if you dare to hear it, that is. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, and if you want to see more Draw My Life videos, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode!